Warning, this is just one idiot's opinion on the internet. If you disagree, that's cool too. The Binding of Isaac is an indie game that released in 2011 on PC. Since then, the game has gone through multiple add-ons and remakes, which include The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, AfterBirth, and AfterBirth Plus. After putting it off for 6 years, I finally picked up AfterBirth Plus for the Nintendo Switch. But at this point, you can get the game on almost every system available. The Binding of Isaac was developed by Edward McMillan. Sound familiar? That might be because he's the creator of the highly acclaimed Super Meat Boy. Personally, I enjoyed Super Meat Boy in its intense difficulty, plus tight and easy to pick up controls. So needless to say, I was very excited to play a different game made by the same creator. I guess I should have known what I was getting into, since this was the creator of a game where you play as a slab of meat chasing a bandage, but I had no idea that I would be getting into one of the most bizarre games I have ever played. Honestly, the plot for The Binding of Isaac is not all that important. See, here's a plot drawn by a 5-year-old that will explain everything. Okay, for those who might actually want to look into the plot a little further, here you go. The Binding of Isaac is based off the biblical account of when Isaac was tied up as a sacrifice to God. In the game, Isaac's mother hears a voice from above that tells her to kill her son because he is corrupt with sin, and that killing him is the only way to save him. I told you things get weird. As Isaac's mother walks to his room with a butcher's knife, Isaac escapes through a trap door in his room. This is one messed up child abuse story if I've ever seen one. Or is it? I'll admit I didn't fully understand the story or what was really going on, so I opened up my trusted Google for a number of different takes on the game. I couldn't believe the different ways people were interpreting the game. The simple answer is that the game is just bashing religion through a depiction of child abuse, and maybe that's what the game developers intended to portray. But after looking a little deeper into it, I became very intrigued with other various perspectives of the story. There's a theory out there that the entire story is just a figment of Isaac's overactive imagination. Thinking about it, what kid has a trapdoor in their bedroom, honestly? The game seems to play on fears Isaac has more than anything else. Without going into great detail, the perspective of the story is incredibly intriguing. The game has 16 endings, which vary depending on the characters you play as or the bosses you beat. The endings vary from Isaac killing his mother with a Bible, to getting locked in a toy chest, finding a noose, or finding his cat Guppy. As much as people love to look into the story, The Binding of Isaac is all about the gameplay. It is a top-down Legend of Zelda style bullet hell shooter / dungeon crawler. The game consists of you picking from a multitude of characters, all with their own individual strengths and weaknesses, along with the different power-ups and items to start. Almost all the characters feel unique in their own way and make the strategy of the game change every time. After selecting a character, you are transported to the first floor dungeon, and so the fun begins. Basics of the game are you travel from room to room looking for boss doors, while trying to collect power-ups along the way. Side note, there are over 600 items in the AfterBirth Plus edition of the game. You have some passive abilities, little helpers and partners, or pills and cards which are only one-use items. The power-ups can range from giving extra health to the character, or stronger attacks and lock-on bullets, to leaving a pool of lemonade that does massive damage. It provided a great variety with each run I had. The one issue I did have though was with some of the items, more specifically the cards and pills, it would give you a very vague description of what it did, or just a question mark in the description. This forces you to either use the item immediately and burn it to find out what it does, or wait until you're in trouble and hope that it bails you out. At one point I found an item that kept teleporting me out of the boss room every time I got hit. And every time you get teleported out of the boss room, they gain full health. And when you get to the later bosses, you will get hit. This essentially ended my run, and for the life of me I have no clue what caused that effect. I found that it actually took away from the strategy a bit and ruined a number of my runs. Might as well get used to ruined runs though, because it's going to happen a lot. Every dungeon is procedurally generated in the game, and although this brings incredible variety, it can also put the player in some less than ideal situations. You can be cruising from room to room looking for the boss, and then boom, you hit a tiny room with a bunch of enemies and it's basically game over. Thankfully, each run of the game lasts probably 30 to 45 minutes depending, so you never really feel like you've wasted hours getting to one part and then get screwed by RNG. While you are walking through the bizarre dungeons, there are plenty of other items to find. You can find coins to buy items, steel and devil hearts, angel hearts, which are non-replenishable hearts, keys to open doors, and bombs to blow up rocks, which can lead to hidden rooms. Along with these items, you have plenty of different types of rooms in the game. Treasure rooms, shops, devil rooms, angel rooms, along with the risk-reward rooms such as duel rooms and trap rooms. You never know what could happen in these rooms, and it can be very tough if you have a good run going, whether you want to take a peek inside and risk an onslaught of enemies. It's a very good risk-reward system in the game though. There are a ton of different enemies and bosses in the game, though to see the variety you are going to have to get to the lower floors of the game. The game does a great job of creating a sense of excitement and fear with each room. The stronger you get, the more confident and bold you become, but there is always that fear of being overwhelmed in a matter of seconds. There is also a multiplayer feature where you team up with a buddy and they play as one of the familiars in the game. Unfortunately, not only do they only have one heart, which means near certain death, but it also takes the heart from the host, which makes things considerably harder. There's a few different modes in the game. Normal mode is just regular play through the game. Hard mode, which as implied is a step up of a challenge. Greed mode is where you fight waves of enemies to earn coins and buy items while seeing how long you can last. And there is also a challenge mode where you're thrown into a game with random power-ups and abilities and try to beat the game with that setup. The variety of different modes and features adds to an already plentiful amount of gameplay in AfterBirth Plus. The game has a very dark undertone to everything, which emphasizes the mood from the get-go. To start off, your ammunition/bullets are your character's tears. Let that sink in. You are killing piles of poop with your tears. That's messed up. Enemies often look like something out of a small child's nightmare, and when they die they explode into a very tame yet bloody gory mess. The item names and descriptions are great. To name a few, Guppy's head is Isaac's cat, butt bombs feature exploding poop, and Thunder Thighs grants you increased speed, damage, and range. It's certainly nothing jaw-dropping in terms of graphics and art style, but it fits the game perfectly and would look awkward any other way. The music is absolutely fantastic. All the songs have a unique tone and fit the levels great. It really captures the emotion of the game and the characters. Just take a listen to a few here. With the use of randomly generated dungeons, over 600 plus items, a multitude of characters, and a bunch of endings to unlock, the game has nearly infinite possibilities. It's not a game you have to commit a ton of time to each session you play, but when I find myself bored or looking for something quick to play, it is a great choice. The Binding of Isaac AfterBirth Plus is far from an earth-shattering game, from any perspective really, but it just seems to do everything very well. Nothing ever really feels the same, and you can never know what to expect from it. Most importantly though, it's just a straight up fun game to play.